I agree.
I can go now.
What are you frowning at?
Yes, right.
I'm frowning because the first presenter should be on Zoom and I don't see anyone in there. And I just had trouble joining, so I'm wondering if there's.
We're coming this way.
Back door.
Why can't they come in there?
I don't want to have to look at him. He only comes in that way. Everyone else should.
That's right. So our first person's out here.
Well, I had trouble getting into the Zoom, so I wonder if other people are having trouble with the Zoom. The first presenter should be on Zoom.
I don't see anybody quite yet.
Do we need any?
No, but I had trouble getting onto the Zoom, but it's
I
the,
just did them right there. It worked fine.
yeah, you just,
I'm not sure.
it's just that one there, the 922.
They use the same. They
Yeah,
use this ID to log in.
okay.
I don't see any eagles.
Do we need
David?
Do we need them for this?
No sign of eagles.
No, we don't.
Oh, well.
Just go
I've
ahead
been out
and
there
do
a
it.
lot. I've been
Yeah.
giving tours and
We're
things.
live whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ed Hoops, Chairman of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. We will now convene the January 6, 2022 meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. As required by General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to the extending of certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The public are able to attend this meeting either in person or via alternative public access. Members of the public may watch the meeting live on Channel 18 or watch and/or participate in the meeting hosted in Zoom. The meeting notice provides necessary instructions to join the meeting via Zoom. Please note that audio, video, and screen sharing functions will be disabled for all attendees. You may request to participate by using the raise hand function. We don't have any, Pat's not remote, is she?
No.
She's ill.
Okay. I will start by taking a roll call for quorum. Ed Hoops is here. Tom Durkin.
Here.
Patricia Mulhern is not. Ellie Lawrence.
Present.
Rick Bishop.
Present.
Paul Huggins.
Here.
David Bernstein.
Present.
And with the quorum present, I'll now call the meeting to order.
Sorry.
Again, this is the meeting for Yarmouth Conservation Commission meeting for Thursday, January 6, 2022. The first order of business is a request for determination of applicability for Gina Mazza, trustee, 28 Barkentine Circle, Yarmouth, proposed raised foundation of existing dwelling by 2 feet, renovation of second floor, addition of new stairs, walk, covered entrance, sunroom, grading and landscaping within land subject to coastal storm flowage. We don't have anybody representing. Nobody on Zoom land.
No, he did say he was joining on Zoom, but I don't see anyone in there. It is a really straightforward project if you wanted to just review it based on the plans. There was an addition, decking, and they had added in dry wells for roof runoff.
Does anybody have any questions?
No problem, Mr. Chairman.
Right, Kelly, any other questions, further comments?
No.
Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom? No. With that, would somebody like to make a motion for a -2?
So moved, Ellie.
Right, is there a second?
Second, Rick.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, we can do. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Next order of business is another request for determination of applicability for Next Grid Incorporated, care of Daniel Serber, 4 Bayview Street, Yarmouth, proposed installation of an elevated solar array above an existing paved parking lot within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Mr. Healy, how you doing?
Good evening, Mr. Hoops. I'm good, thank you, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with the BSC Group. With me tonight on Zoom is Brian Yagation. So there is an issue with Zoom because he just texted me to say he couldn't get on.
We couldn't get on. Okay.
So this is straightforward, so we don't need his participation to move forward. But what we're looking to do is to put in a solar array over the existing parking lot. It will be elevated, and the existing parking spaces will stay exactly as they are. You can see how the shaded area there on the screen. They're scattered around the site. A small portion on the middle north side there is within the 50 to 100 foot buffer, and a small portion on the southeasterly side is within the 50 to 100 foot buffer. It is all over existing parking area. We're not proposing any increase in disturbance to the natural ground. Everything, as I say, is over the blacktop, and other than that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Any questions from the commission?
Galvanized structure,
That I don't know, Mr. Bishop.
not our purview. We just thought you might know.
There is one similar by the same company on White's Pat. Right now that they put up.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Kelly, any comments, questions?
Um, There are 2 open permits, orders of conditions for the property. And I had sent an email earlier about getting certificate of compliance requests for those. I haven't heard anything back on that. I don't think it needs to disrupt this project because of, how limited the impacts are on the site, but I would like to see the.
I will follow up with that. We didn't do the previous work.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
Bristol has a different consultant than us, but I will follow up and let them know.
Okay, thanks.
All right, all set. Anybody in the audience? Zoom land.
Yeah, they're in now. I can see Brian there, so there's no one with the hand raised.
Nobody has anything to say on this one, on this matter?
I think it's fine.
If not, would somebody like to make a motion for a negative three?
Moved.
David?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Ellie.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Sending 2 down, okay? So you'll be signing 2 different files.
You just let the guy on Zoom know that we heard his first and he's all set.
Oh, okay. Yes. So for,
I think it's Matt. on Zoom.
was it Matt, did you say?
Yeah.
Matt, if you were here for the 28 Barkentine Circle, I just want to let you know that we did hear that, and it was given a -2 determination, which means you don't have to do any further filing with conservation. Just speak to Kelly next week
2 in here? No, just that one.
in order
This one
to
hit 2?
get the determination.
2 total, 1, 2. Okay.
Next order of business is another request for determination of applicability.
Oh, okay.
For Nora Lavori, 97 Pheasant Cove Circle, Yarmouth, proposed installation of 2 new landings, modification of 2 existing landings, construction of a new 6x10 shed within the buffer zone to a coastal bank, bordering vegetated wetland and salt marsh. Good evening, Kieran, again.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with the BSC Group representing Mr. Lavori at this site at number 97 Pheasant Cove Circle. We are proposing a few small changes to the existing structure. You'll see on the south side, there is a small landing that is partially over an existing wooden platform. And on the middle to the back of the building, there is another small landing. For those of you who are out there, you'll see that there were 3 steps that came straight off of the double slider. That's just not safe, not having a landing outside the door. So we're putting the landing in and just tunnelling the steps. So it's just to make a safer situation in that location. And then on the north side, we're proposing that shed as far away from the wetland and as far away up to the minimum amount to meet the front street setback. And those are the 3 items that we're proposing. Other than that, be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions from the commission?
Well, I was on site there and it looks like what they did with the delineation is just go where the shrubs were. I think the wetland delineation should be closer to the house on that.
It was delineated by Matt Creighton, who is our senior wetland scientist, and he would have done auger holes at the time. I mean, I can bring it to his attention, but this is what he does every day, and he was confident that's where the line was.
Just
Okay.
in response to that, we did speak with Matt and he said that he did it based on the shrub vegetation because he thought it was a pre-existing lawn. But I let him know that it wasn't, it was a violation. So therefore he said that they would be able to redo the delineation based on that information. He thought it was like predated the regulations and therefore wasn't considered.
Ah,
of the-
okay.
So,
Okay, I got you.
but this determination is for the work whether the work requires a notice of intent, so we can
Okay.
still issue a determination, but we're not approving the wetland resource delineations as part of this.
Okay, thank you.
Also, our closest setbacks to the coastal banks.
Mhm.
So those would be the ones that we have our dimensions to and our offsets to, which wouldn't change. That's based on topography.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, anybody else?
No.
You're all set? Kelly, any other questions you have, comments? We've got the two outstanding open orders, right, or expired
Yeah,
orders?
so there are two orders that are on the agenda for a certificate of compliance, and there are some issues with that, but with regard to the work proposed under the RDA, I don't have any other questions other than getting the delineation redone, but that doesn't have to be done under this
Okay.
request, but just for any further permitting that would need to be updated. So I don't
Okay.
have anything further.
All right, anybody in the audience? Out in Zoom? Anybody? All right, so if I see nobody there, so again, if I can get a motion for a -3, again, this is covering the work only under this RDA application, and with the understanding that the delineation is inaccurate and will have to be corrected at a future time, but not as part of this.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
All right, next order of business is a continued notice of intent, continued from December 16th, 2021 for SE 83-2306 Jeffrey and Beth Fanara, trustees, 116 Mayflower Terrace, Yarmouth, proposed elevated walkway with fixed landing within land containing shellfish, land under salt ponds, land containing salt marshes, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. And I believe this is going to be continued because we didn't receive all the material. Is that right?
That's right.
Did we have a request for that or?
No, the commission is
Okay.
requesting it.
All right, so we are still waiting on some information. There hadn't been enough information submitted as part of the continuance. And so I'm going to continue this. Then do I have a motion to continue this to January 20th, 2022?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All
Ellie.
those in favor?
Aye.
Was that an aye? Okay. All those opposed? All right, that carries unanimously.
I'll not be here for that hearing.
Lucky. So don't sign this, but Paul can put the recording sheet in there, please.
Not signed.
Straight down.
Straight down.
Next order of business is a notice of intent for SE 83-2312 Mary Manning, 60 Brave Farm Road, Yarmouth. Proposed rebuild of an existing second-level deck with expanded footprint within the buffer zone to coastal bank and bordering vegetated wetland and within land subject to coastal storm flowage.
We have Danny in the Zoom. We could allow him to speak.
Is it Dan or Danny?
I think it's Danny Gonzalez.
Okay. Oh, hi, Danny.
Sorry.
Why don't you
How's this
take
working?
This is my daughter's birthday. Everyone's ringing.
it? You need to take it?
No. In New Zealand.
You want me to answer?
There you go.
Hey, Danny, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Okay, yeah, now we hear you.
All right, great. Good evening. For the record, Danny Gonzalez with Down Cape Engineering here on behalf of the project at 60 Brave Farm Road North in Yarmouth Port. This is an existing single-family dwelling located on a lot a little over an acre here, 48,000 square feet. What we are proposing is to rebuild the deck, second-level deck in the back. And our clients would like to expand that area about 203 square feet. That will be a second level deck as well. The resource areas affecting this site are a bordering vegetated wetland, coastal land subject to coastal storm flowage, and a discontinuous coastal bank right at that flood zone elevation. Splits, where the slope is no longer 10% on either side there. You can see the transects on the site. The existing deck is 21.3 feet off of that coastal bank. The new section of the deck will be further away just because of the sloping nature of how the house is oriented. And all the work will be outside of the 50-foot buffer to the BVW. Although the second floor deck is above like an existing lawn and landscaped area, and that'll all remain as it is now. Very limited disturbance other than just the structural elements that will have to be installed. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Danny. My first question, maybe I'm missing it, but you've got the bank called out, the discontinuous coastal bank. That's the landward resource, right?
Correct.
But I don't see any buffers taken off of that.
So you mean like 50-foot and 100-foot buffer offsets? Yeah, we didn't show those on the plan only because it was discontinuous. We did show its setback distance to it from the existing deck and the proposed deck. But we didn't actually show those 50 and 100-foot off of that bank.
Okay, so I mean, I think at the very least, we need to put in a 35 and 50-foot
Coastal bank.
a buffer for the bank, at least the portion where it is considered coastal bank. And then that would remove the BV or the border for the 50 and 100 for the BVW. You wouldn't necessarily need those then. So I mean, my only concern here is that the deck and the deck expansion is extremely close to, I'm assuming it would be the 35. And where's my,
Yeah, the existing deck is 21.3 feet off of that bank, and the proposed section where it starts is 29.9 feet away. The reason we didn't put offsets to that bank is because it is discontinuous. It's not really acting like a full coastal bank would and containing flood waters. It's not a sediment source to any beach or anything. Our opinion was that BVW was really the main resource area to be protected in this. Obviously, there is a bank there and we did show it, but that was the reasoning for that.
so where's our flood?
It's based on the
all
flood.
flood, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's based on the flood elevation. That's where they've entered the coastal bank. But there wasn't really any reasoning as to why it's not functioning as a coastal bank, and there's no request for a variance to the 35-foot setback to the coastal
Yeah,
bank.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with you there, Danny. It seems to me where the coastal bank occurs that it certainly would be functioning as a coastal bank in that part. Granted, I mean, once it peters away, then then I think the resource area would be the BVW. But I think where the main section of the bank is, that actually is a coastal bank, and you should call that out as a resource area. Or at least
Yeah, I mean, we're treating it as a resource area, but I understand your point. Yeah, we can definitely highlight that with the 35-foot off, and if you would, if you thought a variance request for work within 35 feet to that was, necessary, we would certainly request it.
Yeah, I think that would be my issue. I would be wanting to see that deck, the deck expansion coming back at least to hit the 35 then. But that's my opinion. I'll turn it over to the rest of the board and see what they have to say. So any other questions from the commissioners?
No, I certainly agree with your points, Mr. Chairman, and I also would like to see a pretty detailed mitigation plan to make up for the lawn that's within the resource area.
I would have to agree with you too, Ed, looking at this plan, looking at the contours that go all over the place and the BVW being a straight line. I don't know if that's an actual delineation on the BVW.
Well, it's, that was flagged by Brad.
Well,
I
the
didn't see any.
contours are all over the place on that. That's,
the
The
sheets
sheets
in
in the folder. Yeah, I think it's more the fact they've drawn a straight line between 1 and 2 where it probably may follow the contour.
Mm.
Sometimes it's not such a straight line, but
Yeah.
given that it's outside of 50 feet from there, I wouldn't be so concerned about that.
well,
I
that's
think
why I feel we should do it with the coastal bank as opposed to the BVW. Point out the coastal bank setbacks.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Just looking through to see if we have the. I don't know why they'd be up here, but.
I will say, if I may, again, this is a raised second story deck, very limited ground disturbance here over existing lawn area. Certainly understand the concerns about the coastal bank. I wonder, there's a comment about some mitigation. I wonder, if we would be allowed to kind of expand this as shown, if some mitigation closer to that BVW was offered. If that would be something that the commission would.
You want me to address that now with the violation, or
I'm sorry, what was that again?
you want me to address the violation with the buffer to BVW?
Yeah. So Danny, hold on. While we're discussing the BVW, Kelly was going to bring up later. I'll have her do it now. There's an issue with a violation that's going on with the BVW as well. So let me get Kelly to give us a rundown on that.
So under the previous order of conditions, the property had a work limit line that follows approximately where that 50-foot buffer to the BVW line is, and everything seaward of that line was to remain vegetated, and it is all lawn now. So that is obviously an issue in terms of the compliance with the regulations, because that was clearing within the no disturb zone. So I don't think you could offer mitigation in an area that was violation. You could offer it in addition to restoring the 35-foot no disturb zone to the BVW. And I guess the coastal bank as well, because that's an actual resource area too. And there's also significant dumping of landscaping debris within what looks like the delineation stopped, but what looks like is the wetland resource area, the BVW, up where it says land subject to coastal storm flowage. In that area, there's significant dumping of landscaping debris, which would need to be removed because it constitutes fill in a wetland.
Okay. Do you have that order of conditions handy? Do you know when that was issued, Kelly?
It was one that was issued back for the original construction of the house, so back in the late 1980s.
It's like 80,
Okay.
83, actually.
There was a COC issued in 1989, so I'm assuming that the clearing was done sometime after that, but
No, 80.
Yeah, just curious. I didn't know if it was still the same ownership group at that point or not. So we'll certainly look into that. Yeah, obviously can't take credit for a violation. So okay,
Yeah, Danny, that was in 1988.
okay, great.
It was SE 83-915. Amy Von Hoon was on the board then.
sorry.
Amy Von Hoon was on the board then.
Oh, there you go.
Really?
Yep. All right, so to get an indication from the board, you're going toward the 35, maintaining the 35. Is that what I'm getting from everybody?
Absolutely.
Me too.
Okay, so Danny, do you want to, do you need to
Yeah,
talk to your client about 35 or?
yeah. At this point, it probably would request a continuance so we can look into that old order, see if we get a copy of that plan and check on that. I see, everyone agrees to push the deck expansion back to the 35-foot. Now, what about the reconstruction of the existing deck? Are there any comments on that?
That was what was approved under the
Yeah,
previous order.
I don't have an issue with that. That was all under the previous order, so
Okay,
I think that's like, that part of the application is okay.
okay. Yeah, so, we'll request a continuance. I'll speak to our clients, get a feeling for where they're at and see if we can clear up some of the violations or at least bring that to their attention and see what we can do about that.
Okay, so you're good until the 20th, January 20th?
Yes.
Okay, and then are you gonna, do you want to do a separate restoration plan for the,
Under enforcement order for the clearing, for the dumping
I
and
think it's better than trying to put it into this, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so Danny, what we'll do is we'll keep the enforcement separate from any of the permitting.
Yep.
Okay, so for this permit is just the conversation you need with your client regarding the setback to 35. And then just so you can sort of prepare them, there will also be an enforcement order coming for the restoration portion of that area as well then.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to continue this to January 20th?
So moved, Ellie.
Is there a second?
Second, Tom.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you for your time.
Don't sign it. Paul can put the signature sheet in. Next order of business is the stormwater management permit application continued from December 16, 2021 for SW 2021-002, Evan Cohen, 125, 133 Route 6A, Yarmouth, proposed redevelopment of an existing commercial site, including parking, drainage, and septic improvements. Existing building at number 125 to be converted to a doctor's office, existing number 133 will have minimum improvements, including new utility connections. This is going to need to be continued. Do we have
Yeah, we
our-
did. We received all the new revised material, which was given to the peer reviewer, and he has committed to getting back to us with his comments by January 13th. So we'll be able to hopefully close out the hearing on January 20th.
Okay, so do I have a motion to continue to January 20th?
So moved, Ellie.
Is there a second?
Second, Tom.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right, again, don't sign anything, just move it on through.
Okay.
And I would say January 20th is looking
Busy, busy.
quite ugly.
That's another birthday.
That's, I was gonna say, that's when the birthday's gonna, it's gonna be delayed to. All right, so we're moving on to certificates of compliance. I'm gonna do the easiest first. Let's see, so. All right, so do I have a motion to, nope, let me open this, sorry, first. Certificate of compliance request for SC 83-1356, 165 Mayflower Terrace, SC 83-872, 48 Grandview Drive, SE 83-2220, 122 Mayflower Terrace. So do I have a motion to issue the certificates of compliance for SE 83-1356, 165 Mayflower Terrace, SE 83-872, 48 Grandview Drive, and SE 83-2220, 122 Mayflower Terrace? Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Whoops. So you're gonna have 3 files total.
I got 'em. Thank you. Sorry, keep it.
I know, that's why I was giving you a hand there. 'Cause I know when you're writing them down, trying to,
That was,
Oh, right.
compliant.
yes, approved.
Next order of business is a certificate of compliance for SE 83-1169, 165 Mayflower Terrace.
Mark's gonna be here by Zoom, I think.
All right.
I think Mark's coming by Zoom.
No,
Why
this
not?
is Bob Perry. I don't think-
So which one's this now? These are all the certificates
They-
of shoreline.
Yeah, those are the ones
Okay.
we
I have
voted
to
on.
kind of catch up on those.
Yep.
Oh, right. I think they should go a little faster.
I don't think there's anyone
Funny, I never thought that.
attendance for,
For this one?
doesn't look like it. It was Bob Perry for both of those.
Okay,
And I
so
did let him know. I don't think
do we need to discuss this at all, or?
Let me just check his email. That I think he sent me.
I'm gonna put these like this and then fill them in later.
That's where I found I was late.
Okay, so he's just asked whether it will be denied or tabled, so just
Be denied.
it'll be denied, and then they
Yeah.
can take advice on how to resolve the issues.
Okay, so do we need to run through this then, or,
I can run through the reasons for the denial.
okay,
Okay, so this is for SE 83-1169, right?
right?
So there was this was for an addition and for changes to the dock float configuration. And the order of conditions required a vegetated buffer along the top of the coastal bank. That buffer, 4-foot buffer vegetation isn't complete. There are some landscape plants that are present, but not a significant buffer. There's also a solid fence that's been installed along the top of the coastal bank, which was not permitted. So maybe that fence should be removed or an open split rail fence proposed in its place to create a more continuous vegetated buffer. There's landscaping debris that's been dumped over the fence onto the coastal bank. And the float configuration is different to what was approved. There was an 8x8 float at the end of the dock, which was approved. I'll just show the. Is that the right one? No.
No,
not
it's
the
the
right
code.
one.
Second one down, I think.
First one.
First one.
First one.
Top one.
I'll show you the photos. There was an 8x8 float at the end that was approved, and that is not in there, but there is a 9.5 by 3 foot T float here, which is very much in the intertidal area. So it is likely bottoming out at low tide. So that float should probably be moved out to the end of the float configuration. In terms of square footage, they're under what they were permitted, so there's not really an issue with the area. It's more kind of the location. Obviously, it's a dock that could do with being reconstructed so it meets the regulations, because it is very, very shallow and just a series of floats in the intertidal. So suggesting that T float be moved out to the end would resolve the matter. I think there is an issue, though, that I think it's providing stabilization for the dock at that point. So there may be some changes that they have to make to be able to accomplish that. So I think we really have to deny it at this time until some of those issues are resolved,
Agreed.
and then they can reapply.
Okay. Any comments, questions? All right, would somebody like to make a motion? Okay, so I'm going to do this in the positive, all right? So would somebody like to make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for SE 83-1169?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Tom.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That's a unanimous nay. All right, does not carry, project denied, or COC is denied.
Correct.
Who made that motion? It was very quiet.
Ellie.
Thanks.
All right, next.
Next,
Let's see, certificate of compliance is SE 83-1-4297 Pheasant Cove Circle.
Next one, yeah.
Do you want to go right into something or do you want us to
I'd like you to go ahead and start, Mr. Hoops, and I'll just try and respond if there's something I can answer.
Okay, Kelly, I'll let you. Do you have any jokes while we're waiting here?
Okay, so this was, there was 2 orders of conditions that were filed for the same property for the construction of the home and then the garage back in 1975, I believe. So when I did the inspection of the property, I'm trying to remember which one. Okay, so this is where we had, there was an area that had been cleared in the buffer zone to the wetland. And when BSC had taken a look at the property, they picked up on this and added in some plantings to fill that area and took out a fence that had been added. So that area had been addressed, but there is still, I guess, clearing an area maintained as lawn, extending between the base of the area of fill and the edge of the wetland, which was all to remain as natural vegetation per the order of conditions. And then the other issue that came up is based on the RDA plan that was submitted, it looks like the fill actually extended on to, and some of the clearing extended onto the town property, particularly on the left side, but also to a lesser extent on the right, I think north and the south. So I think that just needed us to look into a little more on how, because I think the positioning of the house was changed when maybe when they applied for the garage, the house was moved over and then that pushed some of the fill for the house across the property line, or I'm not really sure what happened, but I think we need to address in terms of the clearing and the lawn area that is being maintained between the bottom of that fill and onto the town property. And then the actual fill itself that's on the town property.
So if I could speak a little bit to the town property on the south side, or as you face the screen here on the right-hand side, the fill at basically the Terrace slope is right at the property line right there. For those of you out there, those are the landscape retaining things. They go down on the southerly side. They kind of end right beyond the garage. They end right at that property line. So the Terrace slope is within a few feet of the property
Yeah, and
line.
that area is all vegetated, right? So
And that's
it's not as
vegetated. So I
concerning
think
in that area.
on that side, I think it's, hopefully acceptable.
Mhm.
On the other side, it does look like the clearing did go onto the town property on the north side, or as you face the screen here on the left-hand side. That area could be planted if that's the desire.
I'll just show you the photos that go along with that. These ones are probably better. So this is the area that was planted, and it kind of is just, I guess, in line with the existing vegetation's that's there, but there's still quite an area here, and I'm not sure exactly where the town property line fits. Either, I'm assuming it's somewhere maybe through back here. Would that be approximately right? It's hard to tell because I didn't see any property boundary markers there.
There are no property boundary marks. There was a fence there, which identified exactly where it was, but we had to take the
So
fence
that
out.
would be where the edge of the vegetation.
So a little bit
was
to your
there,
left, yeah, that's the edge of it. That's probably where the old fence was, which was on the town property.
right?
So about 9 to 11 feet back from that is where the actual town line goes, approximately to the left of that, yeah.
Okay, so it's
somewhere
somewhere
along that
through
line.
here. So it's really, I mean, that area there has been replanted. So if that's just left to naturalize, then that's not so much of an issue. It may be just like looking at extending that planting area to fill the rest of that area around here that has been cleared. And then leaving that area to naturalize once those plantings are in. And then I guess, the fill, it may be more detrimental at this point to go removing fill than to leave it in place as long as it's vegetated.
So yeah, we would have no problem planting. You can see the plantings that my client just put in, so we're glad to carry that along the edge on the town property.
Okay, and then we'll pick up that new BBW.
And then the new delineation could be done as part of that.
Okay,
And
yeah.
just out of interest, these were I have to show them. This was the property on Monday with the super high tide that we had where the
Are you sure that's a wetland?
It wasn't even that high.
Yeah.
It was kind of like
That's pretty darn high.
a little bit below high.
Yeah, we were still an hour away from high on that one, I think.
Yeah,
It wasn't even blowing that much, was it?
No, it
it
wasn't.
was blowing a little, that was,
And not that much.
There's a lot more to come.
So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. They'll have some real waterfront property there at some point.
Okay, so Karen, you're good with what we're asking to do?
We'll delineate the line again if it's
Mhm.
necessary. I mean, I guess is the wetland line, we're not looking to do any work other than what was in the RDA, other than mitigation plantings. We can do it, but for what purpose would we do it?
What's
In my opinion, the purpose is that we have an accurate record in your file.
Okay.
So that going forward, if there are ever any other issues or any other applications, we have an updated record.
Yeah, I guess the only thing with that is they would need to get it updated if that was more than 3 years old. So it's really most important for them to get that delineation updated if they're looking at filing a new notice of intent. But if you want to see it on the plan now.
I don't believe there's any intent to do any further work. That's why I say it, but we can get that done.
Okay, and so, but you're not saying we'll go ahead, you don't need to go ahead with the enforcement then, we'll cover everything, we'll have them just present a restoration plan?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, just so that, yeah, because it can be action under the COC that if you present a restoration plan, do you guys want to review that, or do you want me to just review that before they go ahead and do it and then file a COC request again?
As long as if you don't mind just looking at it, I don't think it's not that complicated, and I think just if you would just add to the COC then the monitoring for the
It's an
restoration.
ongoing condition.
Yeah, just for 3 years, I think.
Okay.
Okay, you all set on that?
Yep.
Karen, you're good with that? Okay, so with this one, again, I'm going to do it at the positive. Do I have a motion to approve issuing the COC for SE 83-42?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, could we just continue it?
You have to
No,
take-
we have to take some sort of decision on a certificate. They're supposed to be, was it 21
Or
days?
unless you want to try and use the extension.
You know what?
The regulations say we have to take action within 21 days.
Okay.
So it doesn't allow for a continuance. We've been trying to get the legal opinion on using a signed extension agreement. So
But you don't have a, do you
we
have
can
it
put it
under
in
the
the
notice?
other, no, because it wouldn't fall within an RDA or a notice. I could write in another request for the certificate of compliance.
Um, Well, see, the only
That way,
thing I don't, I mean, and I'm no, no disrespect intended, but I don't want them coming back and saying, look, oh, well, you didn't issue it in 21 days and having a, having it, sent up to DEP, but
yeah, there's that, and I guess there's the, I have to then review a new request, so it's the covering the, well, not
And Mr.
not
Chairman,
covering the cost.
please go forward with the vote and we'll come back in with a new
Okay,
plan. I don't know if I could get something done in time for the next meeting, so that would only extend it further than 21 days anyway, so.
okay,
let's
I
just
mean,
go with-
I think that would be the easier way. That's
Yeah.
going to be the easier way to do it in the long run.
okay.
All right, so do I have a motion to issue the COC for SE 83-42?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
All right, so that one is denied, and we'll see you as quick as you can get on that one. Karen?
And that's the same motion for 58 as well, because
All right, so the another certificate of compliance for SE 83-58, 97 Pheasant Cove Circle. Again, we were under the same conditions, same issues, doing the same thing.
Can we close that one? Is there any reason to keep two of them open?
So which one was this for, the garage?
this is for the garage.
Well, you know what? I think we're gonna try and, because we know you and we trust you.
We know where to find him.
We know where to find you.
I've been in Yarmouth a long time now, so I'm not
That's
going
right.
anywhere.
I'm willing to let this one, let this one move forward. Because we're still working on the other one. So,
So
Everybody-
can I just confirm, can I just look at what the description was on the second one? Because if
On
they
this one?
rolled in the
Oh,
file, because if they rolled the first in order into the second order, then by approving the second one, we might be effectively approving the first one, if you see what I'm saying. So
Yes.
just have a really quick look. I thought that it was just for the garage, but let me double check.
If that is the case, I was not thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm probably overthinking it.
Tanya, she's just had that, got that legal mind, just
Oh,
never,
yes.
never ending.
Field trap.
And of course, where is the project description in these old orders?
Probably put somewhere on a little
usually
piece of
just-
tissue paper
I
that's
usually
been.
look on the legal ad.
the
Yeah, you
legal
see
ad.
on here, it says in the description of modifications proposed, removal of trees, filling and construction of a residence. So I think that they filed the second one to actually replace the first. So I don't think we can close that either.
So could we reverse order? Close the first and keep the second open,
Oh.
just so that,
Saying that, oh, well, this would be therefore a, what do you call it? Invalid order of conditions. The work never took place and then the work took place under,
Under the other.
that was an invalid and this one is the actual.
We
You
can
can
do that.
amend the motion, the first motion.
All right, so we're gonna issue this under an invalid order.
The first one we should issue under an
Oh, first
invalid
one.
order, 42, so we'd have to amend the previous motion. Sorry.
Oh,
So amend the previous motion
All
to be
right.
an invalid order, certificate of compliance, order of conditions, sorry.
All right, so do I have a motion to amend the previous motion for SE 83-42, 97 Pheasant Cove, to make that an invalid order? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so now we have to, well, actually I did, I said invalid, right?
Yes, you
I put that
did.
included- I included, I probably shouldn't have done it that way. All right, so I'm gonna do that.
Now a motion
And
for,
now a motion for SE 83-58, 97 Pheasant Cove Circle to issue,
to deny.
not to issue, but we're gonna deny it, yeah. It's fun, it's weird. So this is to issue SE 83-5897 Pheasant Cove Circle. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, David.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
All right, so we are working under that same set of conditions and I can't
Take into
believe we actually got
consideration-
that figured out.
So that one should be
that one
signed
signed?
because we'll issue that. And this one is not a lot of work over there.
I was trying to be quick tonight. I just didn't work out that way.
It's relatively quick.
There we go. Thank you, Karen.
Happy New Year, Karen.
That one was, this one, and everybody was voting against it, right?
Here we go, David.
I lost track there.
Yeah,
Kind of pleased I
That's
was
the one.
here.
Gonna want to check the
42 is
signatures.
invalid.
We're gonna sign this.
Because I don't blame
Right, so
I was secretary
No,
for 6 years and I'd still be saying like, what the?
we denied.
The voting sheet.
I would just say the commission
Remember, we redid it.
3-1.
voted to invalidate
We
the
one of the few.
COC.
Okay, motion to invalidate.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
So
guys
that
good?
just makes this all null and void here.
Yeah, but it still goes in the file.
Okay.
You all set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Order.
I'll just take this folder down to put that in.
So tell
It's
me.
got the other one in it.
Which one is this now?
86.
86, right?
You don't trust us.
Right, next motion, or next, sorry,
Hold it for that
next order is another certificate of compliance for SE 83-118633 Prince Road.
Okay, hang on.
These guys.
Sorry, we're on Prince Road.
Prince Road.
Okay.
This is the floats.
So this one was for a dock. And there were, the dock itself looks okay, but the float was permitted at 16 by 8 square feet for a total of, sorry, 16 by 8 feet, so a total square footage of 128. The actual float is about 30 feet by 8 feet, plus 2 additional 8 by 5 floats for a total of 320 square feet. So it's not in compliance with the approved plan, and it's also not in compliance with the regulations requiring no more than 200 square feet. So on that basis, I would recommend denying the certificate of compliance request. And as I would also recommend enforcement action for the, there is a substantial deck and patio expansion, which, yeah. That you can see between these two
Wow.
pictures. This is the pre and post. So the deck here was expanded and this is all new patio area. That's all within the setback to the coastal bank. So that was completed sometime around 2018. So I'd recommend an enforcement action on the next agenda for that.
Same, it's the same owners now, the homeowners now are the ones that were there back in 2018 when it was expanded, okay. All right, yeah, I have no questions about that.
Mr.
Anybody?
Chairman, is
Go
this, let's see, SE 83-1186?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any other questions or anything? Okay, so do I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for SE 83-1188, 33 Prince Road?
So moved, Ellie.
For a second?
Second, David.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so it does not carry.
So do they have to come back with the plan to
They'll
rectify?
have, yeah, they'll have to
That motion?
change out the floats to make them compliant, and then they can come back and reapply for a COC, and then we'll address the violation separately as an enforcement order.
David?
What about the patio?
Yeah, so that would be addressed under an enforcement order.
Okay.
So we would require them to appear before the commission for that.
Are the floats in right now?
Yeah, I took photos of them, so.
Just a little cheap.
I mean, I don't need a picture, but I'm just surprised they're still
Yeah, they're
in.
still in. Yeah.
Because I'd also like to find out
I did the research.
what marine company
I didn't know about the patio.
decided it was a good idea to go from 128 to 320 square feet of floats between seasons like that.
Oh, no, just to clarify, the patio expansion and the deck expansion were 2018.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure exactly when the float expansion was done.
Yeah, I'm just
Oh,
trying,
but either-
I
yeah.
would like to know which company did that because that's a company who needs a fine.
The whole,
All right, next order of business, another certificate of compliance for SE 83-395, 18 Mattis Drive.
4 minutes. Oops.
You can do it.
Look,
Evening.
evening.
All right, so Kelly, what's up with this one?
Okay, so this was a single family dwelling that was built in 1984, 1985 by the current owner. The original order was issued to the previous owner developer and was modified with an updated plan when the current owner purchased the lot. The garage was not built at that time as it is shown on this plan, but it was built at a later date and had a request for a determination of applicability, which did not require a notice of intent because it was considered to be outside of the 100-foot buffer at the time. So the order of conditions required a work line limit starting at the 12-foot contour in the northeast of the garage to a cement bound on the south property line. And there's a aerial, the property lines changed since the original construction. So this dotted line shows what the property line was approximately at the time of the permitting. And then this red dotted line, which is kind of hard to see, was the approximate work limit line as part of the approved plan, which is on here. So, right one? This is not the right one. Yeah, this is the right
That's it.
one. Yeah, so they described a work line limit in the order of conditions, which went approximately across this section here. So a much more extensive area has been cleared beyond that work line limit. Part of that cleared area is maintained as lawn. The rest has trees, but no undergrowth and may have been seeded with lawn grasses. So I would suggest not issuing the COC at this time and that a revegetation plan be submitted for the area that was cleared beyond the order of conditions. The wooded area may be allowed to revegetate naturally, but the lawn area would need to be replanted.
Okay. All right, are you the owner?
I am, sir.
Okay, you Dennis?
No, that's Dennis
Everett.
Theoditis.
I'm sorry,
He was
Everett. You're
before me.
Everett, sorry.
I'm Meyer.
Misreading.
I know, well, it's
Um,
complicated.
Okay, so would you like to say anything to the board?
I would.
Okay,
We have been there for 4 decades with the original owners of the property. And I have been a very good steward of that land since we've been there. And for example, I intentionally have never irrigated the lawn, intentionally. Many people have said you should irrigate the lawn, have a nice glowing lawn. I don't ever believed in it because of the pesticides, herbicides and such that get mixed into the irrigation. And then the waste of the water. So we put up with the lush lawn up until about the end of June. And then by about the middle of July, we put up with the browning of the lawn and just let it go. I'm telling you this because we're very interested in caring for the property and continuing to be stewards of the property, which is why we bought property on the marsh, because of the wildlife and the preservation of the wildlife.
No signature.
All I do with the lawn, and I'm going to get to the back in a second, but all I do with the lawn is dethatch it annually. That's the back. It's probably not a picture of the lawn itself, but that's the backyard. And dethatch it, and maybe every 2 or 3 years overseed it. With talking about the lawn now, not the backyard. Any of the grass that you see that's out there has migrated. I'm not seeding it, but there's lawn there, so some of it has moved. You know, that's undeniable. We've had an enormous loss of trees. We've been there 4 decades. A lot happens in 40 years to the trees. I've never cleared the land. These openings that you see are properties of, I don't know, Bob, Hurricane Bob, the Halloween storm, numerous nor'easters, especially in the winter when they get cold, they freeze up. We've got multiple stumps. That's damage over the years. You've got winter moth kill and gypsy moth kill. We've had it all. And then storm knockdowns. And that's the opening that you see. The pitch pines have come up naturally. They've been left. Everything you see there is, we have cedar, quite a bit of cedar. We have holly. We have, there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 very mature, very tall oaks that haven't bit the dust yet. They may, but you know, that's the time that's taking its toll on the lot. Our house, in fact, doesn't have the shade that it used to have because we've lost a significant amount of trees that were close to the front of and sides of the house. It's been difficult. So that's what I wanted you to know, that we care about where we live. I was born in Hyannis. I've been here all my life. And I've never had this situation come up. And I was totally caught by surprise when I got the notice. And very concerned about it and not taking it lightly. I'm asking for some leniency here, frankly. You can see it's been well cared for. It's not garbage. There is no debris. There's no railroad ties out there. The wood you see, I'm telling you stuff right up front. If you look at the blue tarp, that's a blue tarp. That's wood that I bring in to wood burning stove. My son's a landscaper and we get it from Bobby Hour. That's not wood off the lot. So I don't know what else I can say about it. I've never had any concern, any complaints from the neighbors. As far as I know, I don't have what's the word, enforcement order here with the town. And I've never had a problem with a neighbor calling up, telling me how I'm mismanaging the property. That's never happened. So I asked for some consideration here. I'm asking, that's all I'm asking for.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Questions from the board? No questions? Well, it's going to take me a few more minutes to go through this file, so.
Okay.
I just have one comment about the loss of trees over the years. And I think one of the things that really helps with that is by maintaining the undergrowth, because that's where the saplings are coming up for new trees to grow. And if the area is repeatedly maintained like this, then there is no undergrowth. That is the successional vegetation for the stuff that's lost in storms and things. So it'd be very unusual to see a wooded area like that with no undergrowth, which is what's providing, you know, the successional vegetation when it's lost.
Well, you know, I'm gonna respond, and I'm not being a wise guy. The response, I mean, your answer is what it needs to be. My answer is the response from the guy who's been there for 40 years and raised my 3 young boys and now our grandchildren. And the reason I bring my children and the grandchildren into it is we had lots of ticks, we had lots of poison ivy, always, and lots of briars, bulbrush, heavy briars. You couldn't use your backyard. We had dogs, and the dogs would go into the poison ivy, and then you get the poison ivy by petting the dogs. The biggest problem was that we couldn't use the yard for the kids. It's a pork chop. There's very little in the front, like a long driveway and a narrow front, and then all the yard is in the back. So we use the backyard. You can see it if you look at on the plan. There's not a lot of yard in the front. It's driveway, and then you got the sides, and there's a garage, of course, there.
So to maintain it as it is now, you mow it on a regular basis?
When I say regular basis, I'm going to say probably, well, I will say honestly, once a year. at the close of the year. And when I mow it, I'm looking for the holly, and I don't hit the holly, and briars. I mean, I'm looking for briars. I'm not looking for holly trees to hit. And that's to hold back, and the poison ivy. Those poison ivy roots are still there. They live forever. There's a lot of roots underground, and it comes back within 2 years. That would be back, the poison ivy, what we call the PI. And also the English ivy. Those roots are there. So that's the only purpose of that. There's never been any despoiling of that land ever.
All right, so it seems to me by saying you're mowing it, you're clearly, I mean, that's maintaining it in one way or another. Personally, I would say it seems as though, I mean, that I know the bullbriar and things are things that people don't like, and it's not saying that you couldn't get a permit to do certain things, but just to do it without having any kind of permitting, I would have an issue with that. And so personally, I would say that there should be some sort of a restoration plan done for this area. Was it where was that line? Was that 35 feet or was that more? Because this plan does not really help all that much,
Oh, the old plan.
you know.
So it's closer along like this, the edge of wetland goes along here and then out around here.
Okay.
So in this area, it's much closer. So the 35-foot would come up closer here. But this area there's a larger area between the house and the wetland.
Okay, so I mean, would there be a problem with trying to do some sort of restoration within the 35-foot?
Yeah, I would suggest this area here would just be left to naturalize with undergrowth, and
You mean
then
stop mowing it?
yeah, and then the 35-foot to this wetland would be reestablished in this area, because that's the area closer to the house. But I mean, it's closer to the wetland there.
And again, that whole area was supposed to be left
Mhm.
undisturbed, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that would be what I would recommend. So that's my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the board has to say on it.
I just have a question, Kelly, trying to get, because I wasn't able to get out there. The area that he would just leave is where the trees are.
Yeah.
And the grassy area where that little green thing is and all that, he could keep his grass and mow, or?
No, I'm suggesting, because the wetland, I'll show you on the aerial, might be easier to see. So this is the area of the trees here, and the
Okay.
wetland comes up around here. So I'm saying that the 35 no disturb zone to this wetland should be revegetated, which would probably bring in kind of this area through here. So there would still be an area of lawn, but the 35-foot should be reestablished as buffer vegetation. And then this area just be allowed to renaturalize and not be maintained as lawn area. The wetland kind of goes around and then it cuts around the back here. So everything beyond this line here was what was supposed to be just left undisturbed.
I think that's reasonable.
And it's always the balance, I mean, people want to have a usable backyard, but it's just sometimes not possible when you have a property that's in the buffer zone to a wetland. So the wetland regulations just, prohibit and limit the extent of what you can have in terms of that usable backyard.
Okay.
How much lawn can I have? I'm trying to get the visual. So from the back of the house, not the garage, but the back of the house, how much lawn?
So you would be
Is-
measuring off, rather than measuring from the house, you would be measuring from the wetland. So there's a 35-foot no disturb zone. So you would take a wetland delineation somewhere through here and then measure 35 feet back. And then that would be the area in here that would need to be planted.
So Okay, so 35 feet back from that outer
From the
line
edge of
is
the
what-
wetland.
That's this, okay.
So it's wherever, the wetland delineation is going to be somewhere through here. It's hard to kind of tell with this.
Are you talking about, is that the bank where it drops? Is that what,
So if
is
there's
that the
a-
delineation where you can actually see the bank?
So if there is a marked drop with a bank, then that may be where the edge of the wetland is.
It's pretty well, it's very visual, the whole thing. You can see the cut, you can see the cut.
Yeah, so that's likely where the edge of the vegetated wetland is. So you'll be measuring back 35 feet from there.
Should we have a wetland delineation?
Yeah, it would need to have a wetland delineation as part of a restoration plan.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a very straightforward delineation, so.
And then that would just, and then this area here would just be left. So that's really only kind of addressing replanting in this area here. And then this area would still remain as lawn back in here.
That's what I would prefer.
What are you asking for me to plant? Or what are you asking to have planted?
So you would have a planting plan drawn up of locally native plants. You can use they can use the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension plant list as a guide for that. And they give recommended plants that grow as natives in this area. And then they recommend sizing and plant spacing. So you can use that as a basis for a planting plan.
Okay.
And just using a mix of different species of different varying heights and sizes.
Is this something that I have to hire an engineer, or do I have to have a plan? I mean, do you require a professional plan with
I
a
think
stamp
we'll
and so
sketch plan
forth?
for this. I think
Yeah,
you could
that
just
would
take
have to have
the-
just the wetland delineation
Yeah,
shown on it,
The
so.
delineation would have to be done by a professional, but.
That's the 35 feet we're talking about.
Well, he would do the actual boundary, and then you would just take 35 feet off of that. It's a very straightforward delineation, so I don't think it's going to be anything real complicated with that. I would say you can go ahead and might actually be able to just use the plan of record and just,
Yeah, these plans are a bit old. I don't know if there's been any updated plans done since then, which might be a bit better, but
you could use that as the,
Mhm.
the boundary and everything for the property and that sort of thing, and then just, fill into scale.
The owner
along
could
the-
do that. He could draw the sketch plan for us.
I think you could probably do most of it yourself. I don't know, depending on how
as long as you can get, the plant spacing measured
Yeah.
out correctly.
you would need to rely on the Cooperative Extension Service, their recommendations. They'll tell you what kind of plants that are available.
Barnstable? We're talking about
Barnstable Conservation,
Barnstable Coop?
Barnstable Extension, yeah.
they're still in the same place? Or is it like courthouse or something? Is it still there?
At the county farm.
Oh, no, it used to be below the courthouse.
Yeah, no, they're
It moved. Okay.
they're over
County
at,
farm.
Tim Ferris,
yeah, what's
Cape Cod Organic Farm.
Yeah,
Oh, that's where the extension is?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
There's the building up at the top there.
Right.
Okay. Just give them a call though, because they don't usually, during COVID, they're not usually straight in at the office, but
Okay.
Can I just, something else I just thought of this. I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay. That's right.
good.
Yep.
Okay, so I would suggest denying this for now and getting the restoration planting plan. That'll be contingent upon getting the new delineation as well. And then to reapply after that, after the area is planted. And we just put the monitoring report onto the COC then. Okay, you understand where we're going with this?
Well, I understand that you want me to have a plan of the 35-foot delineation and go to the extension, the corporate extension.
Yeah, actually, you don't even need to go to the office. I mean, you can literally get all of the stuff off of you can get all the planting lists and the recommended planting distances and all that sort of thing. That all comes off. It's a very convenient little
Yeah, we have
chart.
that on our website, or I can send you a copy. We have.
Would you do that?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's pretty straightforward. Just, I mean, it tells you how many feet on center. Just that's what you follow, right? It's just don't make more calculus into it than what it is. It's straightforward. Like I said, you can get that. Kelly can send that to you. Put that on. I would just use some. Like I said, you might be able to use the plan, or do you have like a GIS
Yeah,
plan that we could
use a
send them?
GIS plan, if not, yeah.
Yeah. So Kelly can give you a little GIS plan that will be in a certain scale, and then it's just a matter of you putting once you get the delineation done, you might want to have some help with that, just to make sure that it's put on the plan correctly, and then just fill the area in and go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
And where do you get the plans?
Well, that's as Kelly will. She'll.
Oh, that's part of what you're
she'll-
going to send me? Right.
You'll send a
I can send a
GIS plan, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
What does that
so
stand for?
Geographic Information System.
Oh. Okay.
it'll look something like that.
Yeah, I think this was taken from a GIS plan.
Yeah.
actually, with an aerial on it.
Okay. And then, so when I have the plan,
Once you get the plan, you'll bring it back to Kelly, and then we'll take a look at it. As long as it's good, then you can reapply for the COC, and we'll put in a couple conditions on the COC for monitoring of the planted area for a couple of years to make sure it stays and takes. And then everything will be signed, will be transferred off your title, and the COC will clear the title then for that.
okay.
Okay?
All right. So plan first.
Well,
come to-
delineation
okay,
first.
Well, delineation.
Right,
well,
you
that's-
get your delineation done first, then then you can start working on the plan and filling in the plants, and then go from there. Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you. Oh, sorry, we got to do a vote here. Do we have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for SE 83-395 18 Mattis Drive?
So moved, Ellie.
There's a second.
Second, David.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Hey,
Okay, so denied for that. Other business approval of meeting minutes for December 16th, 2021.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes for December 16th, 2021 with 2-minute typographical corrections, which I'll give to Kelly. And that's it.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I cannot vote.
It'll be 5-0.
5-0.
While I have, I'm up here, Ed, if I could, I think we should acknowledge with pleasure the new vice chairman position, which is held by Ellie Lawrence, and also the new secretarial position, which is held by Paul Huggins. And our appreciation should be extended to Ed Hoops for his continuing as chairman. We
And
thank
our
you.
appreciation
You
for
can also.
Vice Chair Tom Dugan for his many years of work as vice chair.
Exactly. And Ellie Lawrence for her
The hell's
work as secretary.
Absolutely.
I think that was easy.
What happened at 6 o'clock?
I didn't mean to vote for myself. You move me and I'll vote for
All right, we
you.
done?
Jeez, 20.
Okay.
Do we have any other business
I
not
have
reasonably
no other-
anticipated?
I have no other business.
Would
you
anybody
gotta get
like
home.
to have any considerations or concerns as it relates to
Zoom?
Zoom
Thank
meetings?
you very much.
We don't want to do them. I'm happy to come.
I just say we play it by ear, if it gets worse and,
Worse already.
I mean, any of us can stay home and
Just say, I
Zoom.
don't know if it can get much worse.
I can't get much worse.
Am I right, Kelly? Any of us can stay home and Zoom. I mean, if I individually, I wanted
Yes,
to.
yeah,
meet,
individually, if you would like to stay
I
home. you
decided,
can.
oh
That's
gee,
something you can do at home too, because
Not really, no, because I have to.
But is there some sort of regulation with the hybrid that there has to be a number here? Does it have to be a
No.
quorum? No?
No.
Here from the back room.
no quorum.
So then it would just be you sitting here in this,
I could sit.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whitehead.
Please.
everybody
Can I
else
take the
sitting at
paper
home
clip
having
off
their
and
lunch
give
or
it
having their
back to
Well, I
dinner.
think we can go fully remote, but yeah, I think, yeah, everyone would have to go fully remote.
No,
can
what I'm
have one
saying
of
is
you
like with the
here.
hybrid, it would be you, it's you sitting here and everybody else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if everyone went remote, I would go remote, but otherwise it would be.
Do you have a preference, Kelly?
You wouldn't have to change anything. I would run everything from here still. I would be here.
Okay.
That's fine. But yeah, so you wouldn't have to do anything different. You can do normal roll call voting. You'd be on Zoom, but you can have the entire board on Zoom.
Okay. All right, well, if anybody
you
has
guys,
anything
definitely.
different, well, I mean, should let us know with more than an hour's notice. That would be
Well,
good.
As David was bringing up, Kelly, what would your preference
All
be?
right, well, Ben only needs 5 minutes, but the rest of us need a little bit more than a day, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more difficult to manage with the files and getting signatures and things. That's the only thing. I would just need to figure out a way to get signatures because we don't have my authority to sign anymore.
But we could do that though, right? Or can't we do that now that we're hybrid? We can only do that when we're fully remote.
I mean, I didn't sign anything
No.
the day I was hybrid.
Yeah, I think it was, no, you didn't, but we needed to just have a majority sign. I think we could only do that based on the emergency order and most of the provisions of that don't exist
We're still
anymore.
doing that now in
Well,
Barnstable.
oh, you are?
We're still fully remote.
Well, we could look at doing that.
I'm just saying.
I'm
Yeah, we
willing to
would just
do
have
Smart, that's all.
We
what's
just have to get a
easiest
new
for
vote
Kelly.
recorded.
All right, so we'll take that under advisement, as it were.
Okay.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
We stand adjourned at 6:21.
But you never know.